Wow, that was an incredibly satisfying episode of Game of Thrones, made even more impressive by the fact that it didn't have any wow factor to make it so satisfying. I'm talking about Daenerys taking over the Dothraki by fire, or the origin of Hodor finally after all this time. No, what was so impressive about this episode were some wonderful character moments where I would say not even secondary characters, but third-tier characters, but still fan favorites, who had been stuck, I think, for actually more than just a few episodes, like a season or two, finally broke free and realized the potential that made them fan favorites in the first place and made many of us not give up on them. I was close to giving up on Arya, quite frankly, but she recovered quite nicely this episode. And this was not only a satisfying episode, but I think a very inspirational episode as well. I think everyone should tuck this episode away in their memory bank, and the next time someone tries to tell you what to do with your life or what path to walk, you remember Sam and Gilly and Arya and even Daenerys, and you remember what they did, and you don't be a Tommen. You don't be a Tommen. You walk your own path. And I think that no matter, this being Game of Thrones, we'll see how far that gets them, but I think no matter what amount of time they have, they'll be happier for it. So I really liked it quite a bit. I was surprised when it was over, though. I was like, oh, that's it? For some reason, I guess because they didn't have a huge wow factor, and it was a little bit of a slow burn, and I also think it fell apart a little bit towards the end with all that Sparrow garbage, which we will discuss, of course. The end of the episode kind of snuck up on me. But anyway, as always, these are my top 8 moments in the episode. Some good, some bad, but this being Game of Thrones, they're mostly good. So my number one moment in the episode, I was going to go with Sam, but I think we have to start with Gilly, because I think you can't have the Sam moment without Gilly setting the stage for it, which is really kind of what their relationship is. As I've said earlier this season, what's so funny about Sam and Gilly is they're like the couple that you actually know in real life inserted into Game of Thrones, right? And I think on that note, they're also a really healthy couple, which is also unusual for Game of Thrones. But they have a great relationship, which I think is both idealistic and realistic, which is hard to do. And by that I mean is I think they genuinely care for each other, but I think they also have very real-world motivations. Gilly makes Sam feel better about himself. She gives him the confidence that he's obviously is so sorely lacking that even Jon Snow can't give to him. But also, Sam secures Gilly's future. She's not just doing this as like some charity case. Sam is very important to her, I think both personally, but also, again, just realistically in her future. So, she's decided to, align with him, and she's very loyal, and impressively so. Even that baby's loyal. Who did think that baby was totally selling how adorable it was when it showed up at the house? I was like, wow, way to turn on the charm, baby. Who wouldn't love that baby? The baby was like, who's the person who can say I can stay? Let me cutely reach out to that person and smile all adorably like. I thought that was great. But what I thought was really funny is that Gilly got really spunky. I love when she said to Sam, you're a nervous talker. And then she was like, her follow-up was fantastic when she was like, a nervous mute isn't much better. I was like, oh, Gilly, you're so great. Like, not only are you like really correct in what you're saying, but you say what needs to be said, which I think is really important. Everybody needs someone like that in their life who's honest with them, even if sometimes it's not what the person wants to hear. But honest, but still encouraging. Because I'm sure Sam's father would be like, no, that's me. I'm the honest person in Sam's life. No. But I thought it was also funny that Gilly kind of turned into a Disney princess. Who else thought that was like hilarious, right? Like it was like Sam has this amazing house that he comes from, and she gets to put like a Disney princess gown on. And then I put in my notes, that makes Sam for a very interesting Disney prince. But sure enough, he really stepped up to the plate as well because of Gilly's encouragement. I was very happy she defended him at the table, because it was annoying me too that his father was saying such horrible things about him, but he killed a White Walker. I would be like, Sam, you need to like get that emblazoned and put on like a shirt or something, because that's like really cool, and it's much cooler than any, deer or venison that your father and brother killed, although his brother seemed quite nice to me. Although, to a point, his brother did nothing to defend him. So, I don't know. I guess his brother was like, dude, I love you and all, but I need this house. I mean, if you're not going to get it, I'll take it. But in my notes while I was watching the episode, I was like, Sam, come on, take that sword, right? I was like, just take that sword right now at dinner, and get your dad, and just, this is ridiculous. It's Game of Thrones. You can do it. But I thought actually what they ended up doing was very satisfying and much more in character. And I'm just so glad that he did it. I'm just so glad. You know, it's funny, whenever you have any kind of writing, this was the only thing that was a little sloppy, because as soon as his father, Sam's father, made an effort to mention that sword, I was like, that sword's going to come into play. I mean, you don't highlight a sword like that and not use it, right? And so I was very happy with the way it did come into play and that Sam took it. Good for him. I wonder if Sam's father will come after the sword. I would say yes, because he's obviously very concerned with his lineage, and obviously he feels that sword is like supposed to be passed down from generation to generation, and that's very important. Because Sam, you know, didn't take the house, but I think the sword is, I don't know why he just kept the sword out there like that. I guess he underestimated his son, or felt, you know, I hope that we get to see the look on his face when he sees that the sword is taken. It was great. It was a really fantastic moment. I have always liked Sam, but this made me like Sam even more. And I'm sure it made Gilly like Sam even more too. And another Valyrian steel sword. That's like fantastic. We're getting a little bit of a set here. All right, so those are the first two moments of the show that I really loved. Third, I have to go with Arya Stark, who I'm so happy, because you know what? I don't know about you, but I have not enjoyed this time with the faceless assassins myself, right? I mean, let's just be honest. This isn't really working out. This isn't a great program. I feel that they'll kill whoever comes over and like offers a face. They're like, okay, you know, they paid for it with a face. We got to finally see that, which was kind of interesting. But I think that this just really hasn't worked out. And I'm glad that Arya realized that and took fate into her own hands. I thought that her whole storyline was really interesting. I thought it was interesting that she was like watching the All About Eve Game of Thrones version, right, with that understudy or you know, lesser actress trying to, you know, kill her competition, which I didn't quite understand, because there didn't seem like any huge fame or fortune came with being the lead actress or an actor at all in the world of Game of Thrones. So I'm like, what exactly are you fighting over? But I guess petty jealousy is everywhere, right? People have certainly killed for much less, tragically so. Life. All right, but anyway, so I thought that was funny that not only was it like All About Eve with the theater troupe, but also we're getting like All About Eve with the assassins, with that stupid teaching assistant now coming after Arya. I can't wait for her to get it from Arya's sword. I was so glad when she unburied that and was just like, you know what? Who are we kidding? I'm Arya Stark. I'm proud of who I am. I'm not no one, and I still have a list. So I thought that was great. I'm so excited to see that teaching assistant try and come and get her in the middle of the night, and then just get it. You know, I really don't like that character. But that was just really interesting. I thought the whole thing was done well. I thought the acting was, you know, the actress became very likable. I thought it was interesting that, you know, for a minute Arya's like, maybe I could be an actor, right? You know, many faces. Maybe I'm meant to be on the stage. But I just thought that was all handled really well. It was so nice to see the Arya that we all fell in love with in the first place. All right, so moment number 4, Daenerys being branded a conqueror. I loved it. I thought that really fit. And I think it described her so much better. Because let's be honest, Daenerys is really good at taking over things and setting people free, but she's horrible at the cleanup and ruling afterwards, right? Like, she never knows what she's doing. I mean, she really does. Like, I think in Marine, she's done a good job. Like, hey, Tyrion and Varys, you lead this place. I don't want to be here. I'm going to keep going. You know, it was cool to see kind of like a female Alexander the Great to some degree, right? To conquer the world. I thought that was really neat. So it made me like the character a lot more. And then I loved when she entered on the dragon. She really kind of like stuck Dario out there, right? And it was so funny because I was like, hey, Dario, guess who's Sir Friendzone now? I mean, you could see that look on his face where he was like, I'm totally outclassed, and I'm like not in her inner circle. She went to do this whole dragon move, didn't tell me, and now I'm stuck like a chump standing out here with the rest of the Dothraki on their horses. I mean, he looked so bad, and you could tell on the look on his face that he was just like, well, this relationship's over. So that was fantastic, right? I mean, it's like that old thing, like if you're a mistress and you marry the guy you're cheating with, then you leave an opening for a new mistress because you're now the wife. And I would say, hey, you know, she needs a new Sir Friendzone Dario, and you were so happy to see him go, but she's just going to now find a new Dario, and it's going to suck for you. But the dragon was very cool. I also like the close-up on the dragon's mouth, and you could see like the little part where the fire comes out of. I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, dragon anatomy. I love it. All right. The next moment, I put it at number 5 because it's obviously important, but it didn't really work for me. And that was the BenJen reveal that he was his, you know, Bran's uncle, and he was like half White Walker, but you know, so that, and I liked his weapons. I liked his introduction. I was like, who's this? But I have to say the payoff was weak because I didn't particularly remember him very well. I don't really care about BenJen. It's not like a Stark I was like hoping to see again, right? I was like, who? I didn't even remember his name was BenJen. I had to look it up. I mean, and also even the way he looked was like, okay, like this half rotting face. I think if you're going to be part White Walker, you can do something a little more spectacular with it. So I don't know. I didn't like that in particular, and I think that well, we're moving over to Bran and Mira. I was like, when Mira was working so hard to save Bran and she was pulling him, he's pretty big now, so she's pulling him through the snow on that really heavy sled of branches. I was like, Mira's very heroic and working so hard to save Bran, but she's got no character development or any real focus because, they had to have like a bunch of people with her so we could have a higher body count, right? Like, oh, 3 people will come to help Bran so that they can't all make it and Mira will be the only one left. And she's finally the only one left, and now BenJen's gonna come in and steal her thunder. She should be like, hello. I mean, I guess she couldn't save him at the very end, but she's like, I've been looking out for this guy for a long time. I need some more dialogue. So I didn't like BenJen, and I wish that Mira would get a little more credit for all that she's done. I mean, she's the one who told Hodor to hold the door. I guess Bran made it stick, but, she played a really big part there as well. Now, moment number 6 would have to be Bran, who's like turned into Meta Man, right? I really liked the beginning of the episode with the montage of his visions of like all the different seasons. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And it really kind of made you appreciate Game of Thrones. I don't really know what it has to do with him. I was like, oh, what? Is this like all connected, right? Is it all Bran? I don't know how I would feel about that. I like the more long fantasy, realistic feel of the show. I would hate for it to become like some kind of fan conspiracy all of a sudden. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I thought that was a cool way, at least visually, to start the show. And I liked some of the skeleton, it was very Pirates of the Caribbean. I was, almost for a moment there, I felt like I was watching like a different show at the very beginning. Not a bad show, so I'm not sure how I feel about it, but it felt very different. Then 7, the Sparrow Cluster. Wow, what a disaster. That was horrible. I felt so bad for Jaime and Margaery's mother. I forget her name off the top of my head. Ah, darn it. But I thought that was just so poorly handled. And just Tommen is just a constant disappointment. I just really have major problems with Tommen. And I can't believe that Jaime and Searcy are such horrible parents. I'd be like, you guys are like 0 for 3. Although I think their daughter, she didn't really get a chance to do too much. But still, it's like really bad. And I'd be like, is this because these children are a product of incest or poor parenting? I suspect a combination of both. Because I think Sam's kid or adopted kid is going to turn out better than these guys. But anyway, I just couldn't believe it. I don't know what Margaery's game plan is here. I wrote WTF Margaery in my notes. And then I'm like, is she gone crazy or is she smarter than Searcy? I'm not quite sure. I'm interested to see how it plays out. Because we know that, her brother pleaded with her to make it stop. And she's a very clever individual. And she's also very good at manipulating in an underhanded, non-aggressive way. she's so much like Searcy, but she's like so different at the same time. It's really interesting. Her tactic is like, I can't tell whose is better. We'll see. But I thought it was really interesting that they're so similar, but yet we'll see if maybe Margaery perhaps outsmarts Searcy when it comes to dealing with the High Sparrow. Also, I have to say, this Walk of Atonement, so basically they walk naked women through the town for everyone to oogle, right, and throw stuff at. I'm like, that doesn't seem very religious. Right? That seems like really kind of seedy entertainment. And why is it always women? High Sparrow. But anyway, I also thought it was kind of sad that nobody showed up to save Searcy like that. I guess they didn't know that was going to happen or that they were going to go to that level, the Sparrows. But I mean, it certainly also made Margaery look a lot better, right? Like everyone loves Margaery. The Sparrows love Margaery. All the troops love Margaery. And Cersei's just like, damn it, I hate Margaery. And that's our final person that we're going to focus on, Searcy. First of all, she looks so much like Tommen at this point, it's distracting. I think that's bad for both of them, right? That Tommen looks so much like his mom. It's like crazy. I'm like, one of you needs to change your hair, like right now. Also, did Tommen's crown shrink? It looked like it was really squeezing his head there at the end when he was sitting on the Iron Throne, which we also haven't seen for a long time. I was really kind of like, oh, Searcy, you used to be a major player on this show. What happened to you? Why are you not on the show very much anymore? I really hope that they can kind of return her. That's the problem problem, the downside of having a really big cast, that you just don't have time for everyone all the time. And sometimes people can just kind of slip away. And I think that this season, not only has Cersei slipped away, but so has Tyrion. And those were like two favorites early on. I mean, we see more of their counterparts in that play than we do of the actual characters on the show. So I hope maybe they're saving something really good for them, because let's not forget that one of the reasons everyone loves Game of Thrones is because of the work that these actors did early on. So I feel kind of bad, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So that's my thoughts on the latest episode of Game of Thrones. What did you think? Did you find it as satisfying as me? Also, what were your top 8 moments, good and bad? Be sure to share them down below. I look forward to continuing the conversation in the comments section, and you can check out some more episodes right now.